Years after the divorce, I ran into my ex-wife and my adoptive sister in a remote little town. In the years since I'd seen them, one had become a superstar, the other the head of the powerful Prescott family, and I was running a tiny, hole-in-the-wall diner. The moment our eyes met, they both froze. Serafina, my ex-wife, quickly hid a medical report behind her back. Isabel, my sister, slipped a limited edition watch she'd bought for her brother into her pocket. I calmly finished packing the takeout order and handed it to them with practiced courtesy. "Here you are, ladies." The formal, distant address seemed to rattle them. As they were leaving, Serafina suddenly turned back. "Didn't you say you'd only ever cook for me?" I offered a polite, empty smile. The foolish promises of youth. They don't mean much now. Just like the people and memories I once thought I could never get over. With time, they had all faded to nothing. Through the open glass door, the noise of the street drifted in, but it couldn't dispel the frozen silence that had settled over the diner. The two women who had conspired to ruin me, to cast me out of my own home, now stood at the counter, unwilling to leave. Serafina clutched the plastic bag of food, choosing her words carefully. "Owen is injured and needs to recuperate. The facilities here are excellent, so we brought him to stay for a while. Mom and Dad, they came too," she added. "Do you want to see them?" I shook my head, wiping a grease stain from the countertop. "No, that's not necessary. Please give my regards to Mr. and Mrs. Prescott." I paused, then added, "Actually, it's probably best you don't mention me at all. Being associated with someone like me would only tarnish the Prescott name." At that, my adoptive sister Isabel's brow furrowed. "Noah, these past few years Noah." A young woman with streaks of red in her hair bounced into the diner, instantly latching onto my arm like a koala. "I'm starving. The school cafeteria food was literal poison today." I chuckled, ruffling her hair. "You say that every day, Gigi. There's a plate of your favorite shrimp scampi in the kitchen. I just made it. Go get it yourself." Gigi just hugged my arm tighter, whining, "No, you have to eat with me." Noticing that my other two visitors still hadn't left, my smile faded. "Is there anything else I can get for you ladies?" The message was clear, but it took them a long moment to shake their heads. Serafina seemed to drift off for a second when she heard shrimp scampi. Isabel stared at Gigi clinging to my arm, her lips parting as if to speak, but no words came out. I led Gigi into the back, the curtain falling behind us and cutting off their view. When I came out again, they were gone. "Hey," Gigi said around a mouthful of shrimp. "Did you know them? They weren't here to cause trouble, were they? I've seen them on TV. One's a huge celebrity, the other runs the Prescott Corporation. They're kind of a big deal." I placed another shrimp in her bowl. "Just regular customers," I said with a light laugh. "If I knew people like that, do you think I'd be running this little diner? I'd have moved us all into a mansion by now." Gigi giggled, then leaned in conspiratorially. "I heard that superstar's husband is the one who's sick. The whole family came all the way out here just to take care of him. Must be nice having that many people who care about you." I said calmly, wiping a grain of rice from the corner of her mouth. "Oh, I knew exactly how much they doted on Owen Prescott. 8 years ago, for his sake, one of them had publicly accused me of slander and assault, sending me to prison. The other had announced to the world that I had taken my own life out of guilt, personally ensuring I was erased from the Prescott family forever. They worked in perfect, seamless harmony to cast me into a hell from which I was never meant to return." "Hey, what's this?" I was clearing the table when Gigi popped her head out from behind the counter, holding up a small, withered ring woven from dried grass. It was the kind you could make from weeds on the side of the road. It was stained with old, dark blood. Originally, it would have had a small, white daisy tucked into it. It was the wedding ring Serafina had given me when we were young. Back then, she wasn't a world-famous actress. She was just a girl, abandoned near the Prescott estate by her foster father as payment for a massive debt. I found her on a winter night, huddled in a corner of the wall, shivering in the snow, her thin clothes no match for the cold. Her hand had unconsciously gripped the hem of my coat. Against the wishes of my parents and my sister, I brought her home. I used my allowance to pay for a doctor, slowly pulling her back from the brink of death. And so, 15-year-old Serafina stayed, becoming my little shadow. When I skipped class, she covered for me. When I got into fights, she took the punishment. When I was cornered in an alley by a group of bigger kids, she stood with me, trembling with fear but refusing to abandon me. Later, when we fell in love, we would hide behind the wall of roses in the garden, kissing and laughing like a pair of fools. Then, when she turned 17, a famous talent scout came to the house, begging her to become an actress. "Noah, wait for me," she promised, kissing my face over and over. "I know I'm not good enough for you now. But when I'm a star, a household name, I'll be able to stand beside you as your wife. I will make it. You're the only person I ever want to marry." I knew I couldn't change her mind, so I cooked her a feast of all her favorite foods as a farewell. As she was leaving, she slipped the grass ring onto my finger. "One day, Noah, I'll give you the biggest, most beautiful wedding ring in the world." My parents and sister never liked her, but they didn't want to see me unhappy. They used the family's connections to pave her way in the industry. Within 2 years, Serafina was everywhere. I watched her on TV as she became the youngest actress to ever win the grand jury prize. The day she was set to return, my hands were shaking with excitement. But that was the same day the truth about my birth came out. I wasn't a Prescott. I was the son of a pair of day laborers, switched at birth with the true heir by someone who had slipped past the nurses. The day the real son, Owen Prescott, was brought to the estate, my adoptive mother held my hand. "Even with Owen here, you will always be a son of this family." My sister ruffled my hair, her smile unchanged. "What's one more person? The Prescotts aren't so poor we can't afford to feed another mouth." Serafina even canceled a shoot and flew back overnight. She held me tight and swore, "I can protect you now. Even if the Prescotts don't want you, I will." The knot of fear in my chest slowly loosened. Out of guilt, I started putting Owen first in everything. I helped him with his studies, taught him etiquette, let him have first choice of everything, terrified he would feel out of place. He, in turn, followed me everywhere, calling me brother. I was truly happy then. I thought I was the luckiest person in the world, blessed with such a wonderful family and a love like ours. Eventually, Owen started tagging along on my dates with Serafina. At first, she complained about the third wheel. Owen would fire back that he was just making sure her intentions were pure. I mediated between them, and they reached a tense truce. Slowly, without me noticing when it started, Serafina began to remember Owen's favorite things, to understand his moods, even to remember his birthday. And Owen would casually ask me questions about Serafina's childhood. It all came to a head during a trip to the mountains, when a sudden rock slide sent boulders tumbling down the slope. I watched, frozen, as Serafina grabbed Owen's hand and pulled him to safety. I managed to scramble out of the way, but not before a rock gashed my leg open. In the hospital, she explained through tears, "I'm so sorry, Noah." In that moment, I thought Owen was you. I said nothing, but my heart felt like it had been plunged into ice. Something was spinning horribly out of my control. The day I was discharged, I went home early. I even bought a bouquet of roses on the way, planning to surprise her. But there, under the rose wall in the garden, I saw them, 2 figures tangled together. Serafina's arms were wrapped around Owen's neck, and she was kissing him with a deep, focused passion. I stood rooted to the spot, feeling as if I'd walked into a nightmare. But the sharp pain of the rose thorns digging into my palm was too real to deny. I charged forward and tore them apart, a shower of rose petals falling around us. I slapped Serafina across the face. She didn't even flinch, but when I turned to Owen, she shoved me hard. I stumbled and fell, my palms scraping against the gravel path. She stood over me, shielding Owen. "He's your brother. What gives you the right to touch him?" she spat. "Look at you, Noah. You're acting like a madman." Owen stepped up beside her, his face a mask of regret. "I'm sorry, brother, but Sarah and I are in love. If we had never been switched, I would have been the one to meet her first." Then, he intertwined his fingers with hers, his eyes meeting mine, full of defiance. "I apologize. You can hit me, you can scream at me, but I will not give her up." The last thread of my sanity snapped. I grabbed a rock and threw it at them, screaming every vicious word I could think of. Serafina just pulled Owen further away, her expression one of disgust. "You really need to see a doctor." My parents and sister came running at the sound of the commotion. They saw me, disheveled and covered in dirt, and their brows knitted in disapproval. "Noah, that's enough. Owen is your brother. Can't you just let him have this?" They stood together, a united front, their faces identical masks of cold disdain. And I stood opposite them, looking like a wild animal. In that moment, all the little oddities, all the strange moments from the past few months, clicked into place. But I wasn't ready to give up. I found out where Serafina was filming and went to the studio, screaming and demanding answers. She stood at a distance, watching with contempt as her bodyguards pinned me to the ground. "Don't ever come near me again," she said. "And if you spread any more rumors about Owen, you'll regret it." Rage and desperation consumed me. I went to the tabloids. I told them everything: Serafina's affair, Owen knowingly becoming the other man. I plastered the story everywhere I could, determined to ruin them. I wanted the world to know that the beloved actress I had helped create was nothing but a backstabbing traitor. But the Prescott family crushed the story. I fought them, screamed, smashed everything in the house, even threatened to jump from a window. All I got for my efforts was a stinging slap from my sister. "Noah, have you made enough of a scene?" she'd said, her voice dripping with ice. "You stole Owen's life. All of this should have been his from the start. We raised you for 20 years, and this is how you repay us? You can't tame a stray." They locked me in the cellar. Days blurred into one another in the pitch-black silence, with only a stale, cold piece of bread pushed under the door each day. The darkness was a swamp, slowly drowning me. I don't know how long I was in there before the door finally opened. Serafina stood silhouetted against the light. "Our promise still stands," she said. "I will marry you, Noah." They let me out, and a wedding was hastily arranged. I wasn't naive enough to think it was because they'd had a change of heart. The Prescott family was powerful, but not invincible. My public breakdown, though mostly suppressed, had still made ripples. If Serafina were to marry anyone but me, it would only confirm the crazy stories I had told. The day before the wedding, my adoptive mother spoke to me in the living room. "Now that you've come to your senses, don't cause any trouble tomorrow. Owen has been very unstable lately. I want you to go and apologize to him today." My sister swirled the red wine in her glass. "Noah, everything you have was given to you by this family. Behave, and we might let you keep some of your dignity. You know what to say and what not to say tomorrow." It was all so absurd, I didn't even have the energy to laugh. Seeing my silence, Serafina's face darkened. "I'm marrying you, Noah. What more could you possibly want? If anyone should be complaining, it's not you. You're the one who stole someone else's life. Don't be ungrateful." "Brother, it's all my fault," Owen started, stepping toward me. "Get away from me," I snarled, slapping his hand away. "Ah," he cried out, stumbling back. My family's expressions turned thunderous. "Noah, what do you think you're doing? Apologize to Owen now." Owen, sheltered behind them, murmured, "I'm fine. It wasn't his fault." Serafina glared at me. "No, Owen, you're too kind. He needs to apologize to you today." A strange look crossed Owen's face. "Why don't you make me some of your shrimp scampi, brother? The way you used to make it just for Sarah." Shrimp scampi. It was a dish Serafina's birth mother had once mentioned to her. The mother had disappeared, and the dish had become an obsession for Serafina. To comfort her, I had sought out the best chefs, learning the difficult, precise recipe until my hands were covered in burns and scars. It had become our secret, something just for us. She had once made me swear, in a moment of passion, that I would never make it for anyone else. And now, it was just a party trick for her to please her new lover. The rage I thought had been extinguished roared back to life. I laughed, a raw, broken sound. I snatched a priceless vase from the table and smashed it at Owen's feet. The peonies my mother had loved scattered across the floor, and a shard of porcelain sliced Owen's leg. He cried out in pain. My parents and sister rushed to his side. Serafina had the bodyguards restrain me. She kicked me hard in my injured leg, forcing me to my knees. "You brought this on yourself." After that, the scandals about me were everywhere. Under Serafina's expert manipulation, I was painted as an ungrateful imposter who had bullied the true heir, tried to steal his fiancée, and then resorted to slander when I didn't get my way. Together, my ex-wife and my adoptive sister sent me to prison. And while I was gone, Owen and Serafina were married in a lavish ceremony, blessed by all. While I was being beaten by inmates, hovering on the edge of death, they were making love in the bed that should have been mine. 6 months later, I was dragged from my cell, barely breathing, and thrown out of the prison gates like a bag of trash. The snow was falling heavily, the night wind biting and cruel, just like the night I had found Serafina. But I wasn't as lucky as she had been. No one was coming for me. No one would save me. The only thing I had left was the blood-stained, misshapen grass ring clutched in my fist. The next morning, the rain that had been threatening all week finally broke, washing the narrow streets of the town in a gray, quiet haze. Inside the diner, the smell of fresh coffee and toasted bread drifted through the air. Gigi was busy wiping down the front tables, humming a catchy pop tune, while I stood behind the counter prep cooking for the lunch rush. My hands moved with absolute precision, dicing onions, portioning proteins, tasks I could do in my sleep. The bell above the door chimed. I didn't look up immediately. Welcome. Grab any open seat, I'll be right with. Noah. The voice was softer than it had been the day before, stripped of the commanding stage presence she used on camera. I looked up. Serafina stood just inside the doorway, her designer trench coat looking wildly out of place against the worn linoleum floor. She was alone. Her signature oversized sunglasses were tucked into her pocket, revealing dark circles under her eyes. We're only doing takeout and light breakfast right now, I said, my voice maintaining the polite, professional flatline of a stranger. Are you looking to place an order, Ms. Laurent? Using her stage name, the one she had taken when she left the Prescott Shadow, made her flinch. She took a slow step toward the counter, her eyes darting to Gigi, who had stopped humming and was watching her with open curiosity. I wanted to talk to you, Serafina said, her voice dropping to a near whisper. Without others. Gigi is my assistant and my family, I replied, not breaking eye contact. Anything you have to say to me can be said in front of her. Or, preferably, not at all. Serafina swallowed hard. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small, elegantly bound booklet. It was a medical dossier from a prestigious Swiss clinic. Owen's condition is deteriorating, she said, her fingers trembling slightly on the cover. The doctors say it's a rare degenerative neurological disorder. He doesn't have much time, Noah. The air in this mountain valley is supposed to help ease his breathing, but... She paused, looking at me with a desperate, searching hope. He keeps asking for you. He remembers the days before everything went wrong. He wants to apologize. I stared at the dossier, then at her face. 8 years ago, a single tear from her would have sent me tearing through walls to fix whatever was hurting her. Now I felt nothing but a mild clinical detachment. I am not a doctor, I said simply. And I am certainly not his brother. If he is ill, I suggest you seek better medical care than a local diner can offer. Noah, please. Serafina took another step, her hand reaching out across the counter, stopping just short of touching mine. We made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But we're family. Your mother, she's staying at the villa up the hill. She cries every night. She wants to see you. My mother died in a cold prison cell 8 years ago, I said, my voice dropping an octave, cold and absolute. The woman up the hill is Mrs. Prescott. I suggest you keep the distinction clear. The bell chimed again, saving Serafina from the suffocating silence of my response. Isabel walked in. She wore a tailored charcoal suit, looking every bit the ruthless CEO who had consolidated the Prescott empire. But when her eyes landed on me, the corporate mask slipped, revealing a raw, bleeding wound of regret. Serafina, Isabel said, her voice sharp but strained. I told you not to come here and bother him. Bother him. Serafina turned, her despair flashing into sudden defensive anger. Isabel, he's living in a shack. He's cooking for pennies. Look at his hands, they're covered in kitchen burns. We did this to him. And, do you think throwing yourself at his feet is going to fix it? Isabel snapped back, though her eyes never left my face. She walked up to the counter, pulling a thick, legal-sized envelope from her leather briefcase. She placed it gently on the wood. Noah, Isabel said, her voice softening into a tone I hadn't heard since we were children. I had the legal team draft this. It's a full restoration of your trust fund, with interest, and a deed to a property in the capital. It's a fully equipped, 3-star restaurant. You don't have to live like this. You don't have to cook in a place where the roof leaks. I looked down at the envelope. Then I looked at Isabel. A 3-star restaurant, I murmured. Isabel's eyes lit up with a desperate spark of hope. Yes, the best equipment, the finest suppliers. You can have your life back, Noah. The life you deserve. I picked up the envelope. For a second, both women held their breath. Then, with slow, deliberate care, I dropped it into the trash can beneath the counter. I like my roof, I said. And I like my peace. Please leave. You're disrupting my business. The villa up the hill was the largest estate in the valley, a sprawling modern fortress of glass and stone that looked like a spaceship landed in the wilderness. Inside, the atmosphere was suffocatingly tense. Owen Prescott lay on a reclining leather medical chair in the center of the massive living room, a thin nasal cannula delivering oxygen to his nose. At 32, he no longer possessed the vibrant, youthful charm he had used to steal everything I had. His face was pale, his frame emaciated, his fingers twitching occasionally, a symptom of the neurological decay. Sitting beside him was Eleanor Prescott, the matriarch who had once held my hand and promised I would always be her son, before locking me in a dark cellar to starve. "Did you find him?" Owen asked, his voice weak, interrupted by a wet, shallow cough. Did Noah say anything?" Serafina and Isabel walked into the room, their faces pale and exhausted. The silence they brought with them was answering.